From Northeast State Studios in Blountville, Tennessee, this is Views of the SEC. And welcome to Views of the SEC. Trey Adams alongside Adam Benefiel, where we are talking all SEC football. Adam, go ahead, let it out, buddy. Go ahead.
Varsity's horns off, Varsity's horns off.
All right, that's enough. Oh man, what a great weekend of college football. Your Aggies got the Volunteers, unfortunately, but
We did it, Ags.
yeah, that was a great game. Just to kind of do a quick recap of Week 6, Texas A&M outlast the Vols in thrilling 5-hour double overtime game. The LSU-Florida postpones game and sparks major controversy. Alabama cruises to 19-point victory over Arkansas, and Georgia picks up much-needed road win against South Carolina. Let's quickly recap here. Tennessee, Texas A&M, that was probably one of the best games I've seen in a long time. I'm sure you were very happy about the outcome, but just give me some quick thoughts about the game.
Yeah, I mean, the outcome was great. The game in and of itself, I'm kind of going back and forth between, are there more positives for A&M or are there more positives for Tennessee? Are there more negatives for A&M? Are there more negatives for Tennessee? It was kind of such a fluke game that it's kind of hard to get a read on. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can make arguments for both sides on who has the better team. Mm-hmm. I do think that Tennessee played probably their best game of the year from start to finish. The only thing that killed y'all was the turnovers. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that is how football works. On A&M's side, I think that they had stretches where they played really well. They gave up the most yards on defense than they ever have in their school's history. But you could see that there are definite times in the game where their defense did make plays. Mm-hmm. Not all of those turnovers were unforced. Quite a few of those turnovers were forced. And you got to play the game out how it goes. It should not have been that close, and there were points and times where the game should have been over in regulation, but y'all have that weird second half magic that kept y'all in the game.
Real quick, what do you take of the LSU-Florida controversy?
Well, it has to be played because Tennessee has Alabama next. Florida pretty much has nothing going on for the rest of their season. So if it gets to 6-1 and 6-2, that's right. They already said that Florida will go in at 6-1 over a 6-2 Tennessee team, and that can't happen. So the only thing that I'm hoping for, selfishly, is that they play that game in November, to where LSU will have a 12-day stretch where they play 3 road games. And it was the last one being at A&M, which we haven't beaten them since 1996. So I'm hoping that we can take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at the SEC standings. Tennessee still sits atop the East right now, but Florida is creeping up. And if Tennessee loses the weekend, Florida takes atop if they do beat Missouri. And, of course, Alabama and Texas A&M right now, they are still deadlocked for first place in the West. The SEC Player of the Week was Minkah Fitzpatrick, defensive back at Alabama. Fitzpatrick tied a school record 3 interceptions, as well as picking up 5 tackles and breaking up 2 passes. He also broke the record for the longest interception return in Alabama history, of course, over 100 yards, as well as tied for most interception returns for a touchdown in school history. He picked up the Walter Camp Defensive Player Award of the Week, so congratulations to Fitzpatrick. He played a great game. Moving on to the SEC Game of the Week, the third Saturday in October, Alabama at Tennessee, CBS 3:30 kickoff. It is the first matchup of 2 top 10 teams in Neyland Stadium since 2005. Of course, we go into this game, Tennessee decimated with injuries. News broke Monday about the dismissal of Danny O'Brien. He was carted off the field Saturday with what looked to be a very scary injury. There's no information coming out as to why he has been dismissed other than violation of team rules. Adam, let's talk about Tennessee's injuries for a minute. I mean, they have, of course, Jalen Reeves-Maben. His career at Tennessee is over. Cam Sutton, who there's speculation that he might be back in November. Darren Kirkland Jr. could be back this week. But a lot of injuries in A&M or at A&M Saturday. How much impact does that play going against the number 1 team in the country?
It has a huge impact, but I think that the form that y'all have right now, like I said, recapping the A&M Tennessee game, if y'all play that type of game against Alabama, I think you'll have a really, really, really strong chance of winning. I don't think that you're going to shut them down. I mean, it's hard for anyone to shut Alabama down. They beat you. They beat you up. They beat you up. They beat you up. Eventually, you're gonna let big plays happen, or the run game's gonna get going. What y'all have to do to keep yourself in is y'all got to perform for 4 quarters offensively, and so that's why I go back to, if y'all play offensively the way you did against A&M, y'all will be in the game. And all you got to hope for is just stops here and there. Basically the same blueprint that A&M used to win is, if we can just get some stops, if we can get some turnovers, and we keep scoring, we'll be good.
Of course, Alabama, they've won the last 9 games against the Volunteers. Alabama right now is an absolute machine. And not really many people expected that this year, but they have just been playing so well. You have Jalen Hurts come in as a freshman. He's been tearing it up. I mean, they have all types of players just absolutely playing out of their mind. Is this any surprise to you?
It's not a surprise, but I don't think that they're really playing as well as it appears. You look at a lot of their scores, it looks like they're just powerhousing teams, but they've had a lot of defensive touchdowns. They've gotten a lot of turnovers that has given them short fields, which is the hallmark of a good team. But I mean, in the Arkansas game, for instance, they had a phenomenal first quarter. After that, Arkansas, at least in my opinion, kind of outplayed them. I mean, Austin Allen threw for 400 yards?
Over 400 yards.
Yeah. 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, he had some picks. He had a killer pick at the end of the game, that 106-yard interception return. But say all things being fair, if you take away that pick 6 and assume that turns into a touchdown, it's a 5-point game with a few minutes left. I mean, Alabama didn't crush Arkansas by any stretch, and I think that we can both agree that Tennessee is a better team than Arkansas. And
I agree with you.
Yeah, and so I don't. Yes, they're a machine. They're a great team. They're a Nick Saban coached Alabama team. They're going to be tough to beat. But I don't think that they're quite as infallible as they have been in years past.
One of the matchups I would like to watch this Saturday is the Bama offensive line versus the Tennessee defensive line. Of course, Alabama, they've just scored so much this year, one of the top scoring offenses in the SEC and in college football, versus a Tennessee defensive line that now is missing Danny O'Brien, has a couple of guys coming in. It is a very good defensive line in the second half. The first half, they kind of have some issues. But they do find their own. I think Bob Shoop adjusts very well in the second half. Like to see the matchup. Like to see how Derek Barnett does against a very good offensive line. Adam, just give me some of your thoughts.
I think the biggest key for y'all on defense is going to be y'all's linebackers. I think, as you alluded to, you'll have a really, really talented front line. You're losing O'Brien, but I think that he can more or less kind of be replaced. He wasn't one of the key contributors on the interior of that line, at least in my opinion, from watching the game until he got hurt. But Barnett, he's a beast. Him and Myles Garrett are like 1A, 1B in terms of D ends in the SEC. I think the biggest key is trying to contain Jalen Hurts in the pocket and forcing him to beat you through the air. If you let him get into a perimeter, being able to roll out or extend plays with his feet and throw the ball down the field, or if you let him play like Josh Dobbs, that's where you'll have trouble. So I think especially your outside linebackers are going to be key in contain and also limiting the perimeter stuff, the perimeter evolution that Lane Kiffin has brought to their offense.
Another thing that's going to be something to watch is if Kirkland comes back, how will that impact the offense? I mean, it can only improve it because, Kirkland was I think he's another level above Colton Jumper. Colton Jumper has played extremely well in these last 3 weeks. He's been the leading tackler 3 weeks in a row. I mean, if you watch him, he puts guys in position, but I think Kirkland adds the athletic ability that Colton Jumper may not possess. I mean, Jumper makes plays, but I think Kirkland makes more plays.
Yeah, if you could combine those two players, I think you'd have the perfect middle linebacker. If you had the instincts, the football IQ of Jumper, and combine that with the athleticism of Kirkland, then that you would have Derek Thomas 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
So like once again, it comes back. I think that it's going to be key for the linebacking core to play their best game of the season.
Mm-hmm. So we've talked about it. Now, Adam, let's hear your prediction.
I think despite the injuries, I think that y'all are going to come out. Y'all are going to play good offense. I think that you're going to be able to get stops on their defense, or whenever y'all are on defense. And I don't know. I have a good feeling. Like I had a good feeling about A&M last week. I think y'all are going to pull it out. I think y'all are going to end the 9-game losing streak. I think y'all are going to win 31-24.
31-24. Once again, I don't really have a good feeling about this game for Tennessee. I got to go Alabama in this situation, 28-17. I think the main issue is Tennessee just having so many guys injured. I mean, yes, they've stepped up when needed to, but I think right now Alabama is playing too good of a football to lose. It's going to be a very tough atmosphere, but I have Alabama winning 28-17. And Alabama is going to win their 19th game in a row, but it should be a very good game this Saturday.
Nah, they're losing.
We'll see. I hope you're right, but it's going to be a tough one for Tennessee, but it's going to be a great game. Let's talk about really quick the other game of interest, Ole Miss versus Arkansas, 7 o'clock ESPN Saturday. Chad Kelly and the Rebels look to capitalize on the Razorbacks' rough week against the Crimson Tide by picking up a big SEC road victory and positioning themselves back into contention for the SEC West. Adam, just give me some quick thoughts on this game Saturday.
Ole Miss has kind of been on a roll lately, so I think that they're going to win. Arkansas, like I said, I'll keep saying this. I will keep saying this. Austin Allen is a good quarterback. He's a really good quarterback. He's only a freshman. He's only going to get better. But I think that Ole Miss is going to take this one relatively easily. I'll take Ole Miss 34-24.
I've got Ole Miss 35-21. I think Chad Kelly just brings another dynamic to this football team. He plays so well. They've got so many good options at receiver. Look for the Rebels to play very well against a good Arkansas defense, but I don't think Arkansas has enough to beat Ole Miss. The Rebels right now, if they win this game Saturday, they are in very good position to maybe sneak into the SEC West race. I mean, because if Alabama was to lose, if A&M loses the next weekend, you've got a three-way tie atop the leaderboard. So this is a very important game. Alabama versus Tennessee and Ole Miss versus Arkansas. So it's going to be a very exciting weekend of college football. And let's move to the final part of our show, which is the rest of the predictions. Starting with a road game for Mississippi State. They have to travel out to Utah to face BYU. BYU versus Mississippi State. Who do you have?
Good old Provo. Give me the Stormin' Mormons. I'll take them 31-17.
Stormin' Mormons, I like that. I've got BYU 34-21 over Mississippi State. The Bulldogs just had a very bad week against Auburn last week, and their fortunes are not going to be made any better by having to go on the road. BYU wins this game. Georgia and Vanderbilt. Of course, Georgia only having a day less, having to play on Sunday against South Carolina. The Bulldogs, who you got?
I mean, they could have played 2 days before this game, and they'll still beat the crap out of Vandy. So I'll take Georgia. I'll take Georgia 48-17.
I got Georgia 41-14 over Vanderbilt. So should be a good game for the Bulldogs. Florida versus Missouri.
I'll take Florida 31-14.
All right. It's going to be a close game, but I think Florida pulls this one out 28-21. And last but not least, LSU versus Southern Mississippi.
I think LSU is going to win. I really like Southern Miss. I've liked Southern Miss for a long time. They're one of my little pet schools that I like. But I'll take LSU 28-10.
Got LSU 31-28. And that does it for Views of the SEC. For Adam Benefiel, I'm Trey Adams signing off. Goodbye, everybody.
This program is a presentation of the Communications Department of Northeast State Community College and is produced as part of the Student Learning Experience. The content of this program is produced through student participation and does not necessarily reflect the opinions and views held by the school.
The music today was provided by Jason Shaw at audioaudix.com.